When I first saw these topics, I thought that this was going to be a sermon primarily about loss, because both of them express loss. When we are in love with someone and that person chooses to end the relationship or to sever the relationship, there is profound loss. Loss for what is and loss for what might be, for all of the dreams and hopes we had as we anticipated and imagined and looked forward to what the future would bring with that person. And sometimes when somebody severs a relationship, there's even a deeper loss because we begin to wonder if the stuff that came up to now is even real. All of the experiences we had with that person, are those somehow put at risk? Are those somehow lost or destroyed when a relationship is severed? What do we do with what was? And so there can be loss over that as well. And then the question of feeling like we have had no impact. No matter what we have done, no matter what we have tried, in spite of all the energy and the love and the passion we have put out to try to make something different or change something. When it seems as if those have had no impact, no result, no fruits, then there is deep loss because we ask ourselves, why did I care so much? Why did I try so hard? Why have I wasted so much time and energy and life on this? The poet Mary Oliver speaks about loss in a way that is more real than any writing I have ever come across. An excerpt from her poem In Blackwater Woods.
Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal. To hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go.
That is how it is. We risk loving what we know will not be forever. Because of death, because of changed circumstances, because life happens and people who we thought would be part of our lives forever suddenly are not. Broken relationships are about loss and figuring out when and how to let go. Striving to make a difference and seeing no results is about loss. And knowing how not to feel that our efforts have been in vain. But as I talked with both Paula and Liji this week about why they wanted me to address these topics, there seemed to be something even deeper than the loss. And I think the best word for that is desire. When someone we love severs a relationship with us, a desire fires up within us. A desire, a longing, a hunger for healing, for mending, for something to happen to make relationship possible again. And as I was talking with Liji, I felt from her a sense of her having known people in her life, loved people in her life, who had a deep desire for the past to have been different. And that is a uniquely excruciating kind of loss, because what is past can never be changed. And one thing about being human in this world is accepting the past, the fact that the past cannot be different, no matter how much we would wish it were. And so when we look at our past and see a parent who was not able to love us in the way we would wish, when we look at our past and see opportunities that we wish had been available to us, but for a variety of reasons were not. When we look at our past and see that the place we grew up, or even the time in history that we grew up, did not offer us the kind of life and the kind of opportunities and the kind of joy and love that we wish we had had, that fires up in us desire. A desire to hit the replay button and maybe have a different chance. Maybe have different people loving us better. Different opportunities. Born with a body or a mind that weren't broken. The Roman Catholic priest Ron Rolheiser offers these words about desire. Desire is an unquenchable fire, a restlessness, a longing, an all-embracing ache that lies at the center of human experience and is the ultimate force that drives everything else. Desire has different moods and faces. Sometimes it hits us as pain, dissatisfaction, frustration, and aching. At other times, the grip of desire is not felt as painful at all, but as a deep energy, as something beautiful, as a relentless pull, more important than anything else inside us, a pull toward love, beauty, creativity, and a future beyond our limited present. Desire can show itself as aching pain or delicious hope. And then he concludes, spirituality is about what we do with our desire. How we respond to the aching pain of severed relationship. How we respond to that unfulfillable hope that our past had been different. Says everything about who our God is and what kind of life we are going to live. how we respond to our desire, what we do with our desire, more than anything else determines the kind of life we live. And whether we end up in resentment and regret and bitterness, or whether those very natural and human responses to severed relationship and a disappointing life, whether we are able to transform that ache, that bitterness, that resentment, that desire that it had been different, whether we are able to transform that into something that is life-giving, something that is beautiful, something that changes what is and creates something that never was before. As Christians, I believe our faith invites us to accept the desire that is in us, to name the ache, and to walk with each other to turn that ache into a passion for life. One of the ways that our Christian faith invites us to make that transformation is to name the reality of the pain that is in us. To name the reality of what we feel when a relationship is severed, or when our past invites us often into a place of wishing things had been different. The story of Jesus, Lazarus, Mary, and Martha names the invitation that our faith offers us to weep over what is lost, what is broken, what cannot be changed. And only this week did I hear that it offers us something else as well. Listen for a word from God.
Mary came to where Jesus was waiting and fell to his feet, saying, "Master, if only you had been here, my brother Lazarus would not have died." When Jesus saw her sobbing and the Jews with her sobbing, a deep anger welled up within him. He said, "Where did you put him?" "Master, come and see." Now Jesus wept. The Jews said, "Look how deeply he loved him." The others among them said, "Well, if he loved him so much, why didn't he do something to keep him from dying? After all, he opened the eyes of a blind man." May God help us hear and live these words. Amen.
When we face deep loss, Jesus does not expect us simply to adopt the stiff upper lip and tough it out, as if crying is a sign of a weak faith. Jesus weeps when he sees Mary's anguish and when he sees the tears of those who have come to surround Mary and Martha with love and support. Jesus weeps, which gives us permission to weep and to cry out over the pain that is part of being human, the loss that we face. And our faith also invites us, gives us permission to do what those very brave folks did in this story who said, but wait. If Jesus could heal a blind man, why couldn't he have healed Lazarus? Now we know, if we remember this story, that in a couple of verses, Jesus brings Lazarus back from the dead, which is even a greater sign of power than healing a blind man. But what that also invites us to do is say, so, Jesus, if you could do this, why couldn't you heal this relationship? Why couldn't you be sure that I wasn't raised or married to an abuser? Why couldn't you have changed the reality of this world so that people of color aren't shot simply because of what they look like? Jesus. So part of moving from the desire that is ache and longing and wishing things had been different into a desire that is life-giving, a desire that responds to our pain by healing others, part of that process is crying out to this God and saying, where were you? Why didn't you? Why can't you? Why aren't you doing something? Anyone who tells you that everything that happens is God's will, anyone who tells you we cannot question what happens because God knows best, needs to be referred to this story. Because if we are honest about the state of our lives, then we have the right and even the duty to cry out to God when there is so much brokenness and violence and heartache in our midst. The only way I know of to leave that place of regret and resentment and ache, to transform that desire that is lost in and stuck in the past, is to assault the throne of God, to weep, to cry out, and ask God to show up. And to show up in a way that we can see and feel and sense. And as we do that, that frees up our desire in us that is energy. And so we can continue to seek to mend a relationship that has been torn. And one of the things Christianity asks us, which sometimes it's really hard for us to do, is to be honest about the ways we might have harmed that relationship. It's not always about the person who leaves. So we look honestly at our own lives, and we look for ways that we might have, by what we have done and left undone, caused harm. And we apologize to this person, and we also say, are there things that I can do to help mend what has been torn? I wish to do whatever I possibly can to mend what has been torn. I know an apology is not enough. And many times, even when we have done that, no mending happens. The relationship remains torn, and we are in a place of not being able to have the power to heal it. And so we can continue to pray for that person and pray for ourselves, to pray for the brokenness and to pray for the healing. And we keep doing that because God never gives up on them and God never gives up on us. The change may not happen in this lifetime. We may be left with that desire that is longing for what is not. Just as we may hold on to the desire that is longing for a past that was different. As people of faith who are called to embody hope even in places of ache, the only response I know of to wishing the past had been different is to try to create a present and a future that is different. Paula, one of the things that you have done with your life, that you are doing, is taking whatever ache, whatever brokenness you feel, and you have given energy and are giving energy to a program that seeks to help frightened, broken children have a dog with them in court so that when they need to testify, they have God with fur on next to them. So they do not feel as afraid. So they are able to speak about painful brokenness and seek healing and justice. And you are giving them opportunities for mending, for healing. And I believe that has to come out of some of the brokenness that you have faced in your life. Because when we live into our call, it is always about healing what has been broken in us. And the miracle of living into our call is that while we heal others, the wound that is in us is being healed at the same time. We can surrender to the regret and the resentment and the brokenness. We can surrender to the if only. But that is death. If we allow God to work in us, if we draw on the healing and loving support of a faith community, then the desire for a different life, for having had a different life, the desire for a different present can be transformed into a desire that is energy for taking that ache in us and becoming healers. Taking that ache in us and healing the ache in others. And as people of faith, we hold on to the promise of the book of Revelation that in this life, when healing and mending, when restored relationships and redeemed lives do not happen in this life, we are promised that in a new heaven and a new earth, all will be made well. All that has been broken and torn and ruptured in this life will be made whole. It is an outrageous promise that Revelation makes. And it is a promise that is given to us. Listen for a word from God.
I saw heaven and earth new created. I heard a voice thunder from the throne. Look, look, God, you have moved into the neighborhood, making your home with men and women. They're your people. You're their God. You'll wipe every tear from their eyes. Death is gone for good. Tears gone, crying gone, pain gone. All the first order of things gone. The enthroned continued. Look, I'm making everything new. May God help us hear and live this word. Amen.
Sometimes I believe that finally is the only hope we have. When we have tried everything and nothing has changed. When we long for a different past because we are so sure it would have blessed us with a different and better present and future. But we realize we cannot change that past. When everything we do doesn't bring us what we long for, and even, I would say, deserve. Sometimes then, finally, all we have to fall back on is this promise that says, all shall be well. And we desperately need each other to support us when we realize that the promise of the new heaven and new earth to come is the only thing we finally have to hold on to for the healing which we desperately long for. It feels so not enough when we know what we desire and nothing seems to bring it. What we do with our desire, more than anything else, shapes the kind of life we live. May we be a community that welcomes a sharing of our desires, that welcomes us however it is with us, and walks with us so we might transform the desire that is the ache for what wasn't, the ache for what is not now. So we might transform that into the desire which offers hope. To a hungry world.